Hey guys, welcome back to the KB show. I've got Luke Burgess with me. How are you, my man? Thanks for coming on the show, bruh.
Pleasure, mate.
Before we kick off, we got to do the like, comment, and subscribe. Otherwise, Jamie's going to kick my ass. We've got to get it in early. But super happy to have Luke on. Thanks for taking the time out, mate. Obviously, ex-NRL player, Super League player. Now got the 4B clothing happening with all the brothers. So I'm really keen to get into this one. First off, just give us a little introduction on how you sort of got into rugby league, man. We'll kick it off from there. A little young lad over in England.
Yeah, mate. Growing up in the north of England, obviously you spent some time over there.
Spent some time, a little bit of time in Manchester.
Yeah, and obviously rugby league's fairly popular in the north of England, generally. So I grew up in a rugby league family. Dad played rugby, mum played rugby. After she,
wow.
Yeah, after she finished having all the children, she started playing rugby as well.
Laced on the boots and went after it.
Women's rugby league. She was quite handy too. She was good. Just kind of naturally progressed into amateur football for our local team, the Dewsbury Moor. And then...
So whereabouts were you based, actually, like in North England? Probably.
Yeah, so I'm from West Yorkshire.
West Yorkshire, yeah. I
always say... To Aussies, I'll always say I'm from Leeds because that's like the biggest city that people know. So, but I grew up around Dewsbury, Batley.
Was it Batley Bulldogs?
Batley Bulldogs. That's the Batley Bulldogs and the Dewsbury Rams.
Yeah.
Nice. So and obviously I was the oldest out of my brothers. My dad actually coached down at our amateur team, so we were all coached by my dad at some stage during our junior careers, and then just progressed through from our amateur club into professional sport.
Mm. How was that little transition actually from heading into the like professional side of it? It's a little bit different to how you would see in like the NRL. How did they sort of pick you up? It's sort of like a scholarship system over there where they sort of bring you on early, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd almost given up on my rugby league career when I finished playing at 16 years old, and I wasn't that interested in it, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
And so I'd stopped playing. I was working at my local golf club. Golf was a big passion of mine.
Still sort of is, isn't it?
I'm addicted to the game. I've been playing for 20 years. I love it. So I was studying at school, but I wasn't really into that either. I was probably a little bit lost, and then I managed to get a trial with the Castleford Tigers in their junior scholarship scheme, which you mentioned before, and we played 5 trial games, and played fairly well in the games, and managed to get picked up by Leeds. I played really well against Leeds. They had some gun players.
As they always do.
Yeah, and I performed well against the gun players, so I managed to get a trial at Leeds, and eventually signed with the Leeds. I think my first contract was £150 a month or something like that. And then I got upgraded to like £300 a month.
That's probably better than me. I think I was like $250 a month.
It's crazy. Looking back, it's crazy, but we were getting paid £50 for a win, so in season you could always earn a little bit extra money, and at Leeds we always tend to win more than we lost, so it was a good little bonus there. I came through a great system at the Rhinos. They had such a good core group of players, the likes of Kevin Sinfield, Jamie Jones-Buchanan, Rob Burrow, Danny Maguire. Then
you had a silky team in that era.
Yeah, we did. I was very lucky, and I was a young kid coming through. Keith Senior, great players like that. We got the likes of Jamie Peacock over from Bradford Bulls, and I just found myself in a great side. And we achieved a lot of success too. First 2 seasons we won the grand final both years in 2008, 2009. So
really?
Yeah, it was very lucky.
I knew you won in 2009. Did you play 2008?
2008, yeah, I played all year in 2008, and it was a bit of a tough one for me. We got to like the grand final, and coach at the time decided that he didn't think I was quite ready to play grand final football.
Too much of a young fella.
Yeah, I'd played all year, so that was a tough one to swallow. But
yeah, wow.
Lucky for me, we got there again the following year, and I was playing the following year. So yeah, 2009 I was 22 years old, winning my first grand final. It was pretty special.
This podcast is brought to you by King Beats Apparel. So support the podcast by shopping King Beats. We got the first one, Not Your Average Gym. It's got a screen print on the back. And then we got the Gotcha Shake as well. I'm rocking an XL for this. I'm 95 kilos and 6'1". So jump over, support the podcast, and grab yourself.
Talk us through that. Talk us through like the lead up, because it's hard for people sort of over here to understand. But Old Trafford, such a massive build up to be able to play at that stadium, like in Manchester. It's such an honour, and I know like some of the boys over there just truly cherish their grand final memories. So just talk us through that sort of week leading up into and then obviously into the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to get goosebumps just thinking back. Actually,
I get goosebumps talking.
Yeah, it was a long time ago for me, but and I was very young back then too. So I think
22. That's a young.
Yeah, I guess being in the side that I was in, it just always felt like we were going to be there. And we just expected to be there. So the week leading into that game, it was just like any other week. Mainly due to the players, the senior players that led us all year. You know, Kev was a great captain. Just managed to keep everyone calm. Brian McLennan, he was our coach. It was all about family, and he organised some really special things for us that week. He got all our families in. Day of the game, they came to visit all the players at the hotel, and they saw us off just before we left to go to Old Trafford. And you know, that was a special moment. All my brothers were there, mum was there. So that was a nice touch from Brian to organise that before the game. And as you mentioned, Old Trafford, there's a lot of history in that stadium in England. I was never into soccer as a kid, really. So I mean, everyone knows Old Trafford's like...
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're into soccer or not. Everyone sort of knows Old Trafford, don't they?
Theatre of Dreams, right? That's what they call it. Yeah. No, it was a crazy time. We got police escort into the stadium from our hotel, and for me, a lad from Northern England, police escorts were things that existed for Hollywood superstars and soccer, big Premier League footballers. So for me, I was just happy to take it all in. And then the game, I don't remember too much about the game, apart from when we got to a point where we kind of knew we were going to win, and then it was just unbelievable to win my first grand final at such a young age was just amazing. Yeah,
back to Leeds for the after party.
Yeah, the after party was the year before as well. Actually, we celebrated quite well. I was a young, free and single, and I
just won a grand final on top of the world.
Yeah, thought it was amazing. So, and Leeds is a great place to go out and party as well. So we had some good fun in Leeds.
It is pretty good.
Leeds. Good music, good DJs out in Leeds. Good friend of mine, Alex Simmons. He was DJ in Leeds for years. He always had the best nights going on. So we always had somewhere to go. We always had there was plenty of fun to be had in Leeds.
Yeah, especially with the playing group you had. Anywhere you went, you would have been like gods. Just like in the Leeds community, they would have just loved it as well.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, rugby league is not huge in England, purely down to the Premier League and how popular that is. But in Leeds, as a Leeds player, you were kind of well looked after.
Yeah, in those little like townships like St Helens, Wigan, Leeds, it's very much like you go anywhere outside that, it's all soccer. But in there, it's just all rugby league. It's so crazy. Once you sort of step into that town, it's just how rugby league centric it is.
So true, and that's England in a nutshell, really. That each little town, everyone in each town just tends to stay in their own town.
Yeah.
And they rarely leave their own towns, and that's probably why we've got so many different accents over there, because you drive half an hour and they speak completely differently to how we speak, Yeah,
like for me when I used to, because obviously St Helens is in the middle of Manchester and Liverpool, so sometimes we'd end up in Liverpool and it's just like, but I can't even understand what you're saying. How is that possible to go 15 minutes down the road and have like a Scouser just like, but I don't understand what you're saying, like literally.
Yeah, sometimes the real strong Scouse accents, they're very difficult to understand. The Geordies from Newcastle, that's another tough one to understand.
The Welsh as well. They sound Jamaican.
Yeah, I can see why you think that. Yeah, but when I first came to Australia, people couldn't understand me.
Yeah.
And I've almost had to change the way I speak a little bit. You would have noticed from being over there, as English people, we like to miss a lot of words out.
Yeah,
we miss syllables out of our words. We rarely pronounce the letter T if it's in the middle of a word. So all our sentences just kind of merge into one.
Yeah, I remember my literally, it was probably one of my first day or maybe second day. I was over at St. Helens, and we all went to Costa. You would know Costa.
Costa.
That's like the coffee shops over there because there's no independent coffee shops.
Terrible
it's all just
coffee
terrible coffee. But that's another story.
Yeah.
So yeah, we all went to the coffee shop, and like when I was speaking one-on-one with someone, I was all right. You know what I mean? I could kind of get the gist of it. And I think they've obviously been around Aussie, so they kind of slow it down. But when they were speaking in a group, I was just like, bro, they could have been speaking a different language. Honestly, had no idea what anyone was saying.
It's like when
just completely over my head.
When I'm with my brothers over here and we're together and we speak with each other in front of like my missus, my girlfriend, she's just got no idea what we're talking about. She just zones out because she cannot understand a word that we're saying. It's hilarious.
But it's so true. Like everyone just sort of sticks their own thing. I remember some boys over there, and like I'm talking like older boys that played for St. Helens, hadn't even been down to London except to play footy. It's like, how can you not go to one of the best cities in the world, which is like a 2-hour train ride so far away?
We don't do it, mate. We promise. We just stay in our zone, and it's just. I go back to England and I go back to where I come from, and it's the same people. You know, living in the same houses, dating the same girls from school, and everyone's happy. Everyone's just the people in England, the north of England, are beautiful, friendly people.
Yeah,
as you would have found out yourself.
It does when you sort of say it like that. It sounds like, oh, how dull and boring, but they are really nice people. The whole time that I spent in St. Helens, like, I didn't have to want for anything. Like they just looked after you, and no matter what you wanted, someone would always know someone, and someone was always just willing to lend a hand. So yeah, definitely.
I like what you said there. You never wanted for anything, because I use that quite a lot. People ask me about my childhood, and we were very lucky. We had an amazing childhood. We never had a lot of money. We were actually quite poor, but my parents provided a fantastic upbringing for us. And I always say, we never wanted for much. But we had everything. We had everything because we never wanted for much. So it's nice to you say that.
Might have stole that from you when I heard you in the gym or something. How was it growing up? Obviously with your brothers, they all played NRL. They've all played Super League, or did the youngers not play?
Yeah,
Super
well,
League?
Actually, George was the last one to play. He just had a brief stint back in England recently.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't a good experience for him because he was struggling with injuries with his hip.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've all played Super League. Myself, Sam, and Tom, we all played Super League prior to coming over to play in the NRL. But George, he left England before he'd played any first grade football over there.
Yeah, just went straight into NRL.
He went straight into NRL, yeah.
Pleasure. But yeah, so what was that like growing up with obviously competitive boys? I could imagine that household, man, and just all being pretty obsessed with rugby league, I imagine. Yeah,
like I said, I look back on my childhood, and we had so many great moments as kids. We lived in a 3-bedroom house. Obviously, mum and dad shared a room. Sam and I shared a room, and the twins shared a room. And the rooms were tiny. We had bunk beds. There was one bathroom in the whole house. Oh, so my poor mum, had to share a toilet with 5 blokes.
Oh,
and we never used to lift the seat up either. So. But we had so many fun times, and people always ask, you must have been fighting in lumps as kids and bashing each other every day, but we never did. We learnt from a young age that wasn't accepted in our house. My dad wouldn't stand for us fighting with each other. He always made sure that you look after your brothers, you never fight with your brothers. So we respected that. And Sam and I, we were very close in age. There's 2 years between Sam and I. So we were kind of we did our things together, and then the twins obviously they did their things together. And as we got older and became adults, that's when we kind of merged into 4 and started doing things all together.
Just starting to get up to mischief, I'm guessing.
Yeah. There's been plenty of mischief over the years. As a few of it's been fairly public as well, which my poor mum's had to put with a lot. So sorry, mum.
I'd imagine you went to school together. How good was your rugby league school? Sam would have dominated everyone.
Yeah, Sam and I, we went to the same school. We went to a school called Heckman White Grammar School, and to get into that school, you had to pass an entrance exam to show you were capable of their standards. It was quite a well-known school. Anyway, Sam and I, we got into the school. We passed the entrance exam.
Not just a pretty face, eh?
Well, my mum. If you ask my mum, she'll tell you I'm the smartest out of all the boys. But Tom and George, they failed. So they didn't get into our school.
I
And
wouldn't live that down.
My mum was fuming. She appealed and she tried to get the twins in, but you just wouldn't have it. So they went to a different school to Sam and I, which was a bit of a shame. And at our school, we never had a league team. It was all soccer.
Oh, really?
Until one of our maths teachers, Mark Donahue, he was a massive rugby league fan. He's from Lancashire. He loved his rugby league, so he put together a league team, and we were never a crash-out league team, to be honest. Sam actually played in our team. He was 2 years below, but he used to come and play in our team.
Yeah.
And he added a fair bit, even as a little scrawny 14-year-old kid playing with all the 16-year-olds. He was good.
I can imagine you just bashing people.
Yeah, well, we used to enjoy that bit as well. It's funny, going back to what my dad said about looking after each other's brothers, that just translated to the football field as well.
Yeah.
And so it's just like an automatic reaction is if one of the brothers in trouble, you're just straight in there looking after each other. So it's always felt really protected, really safe. And I guess I was the older brother, so I had to lead by example.
Yeah. That's hilarious, man. So moving forward, obviously you ended up at South, or you end up at South. Talk us through the decision to obviously leave the Super League at the time, head over to Australia. And obviously you touched on you boys all sort of did it together. What was the thought process behind that? Was that something that you like maybe had a goal as a kid or had dreams as a kid, like to sort of end up in the NRL?
We'd always taken notice of the NRL, and obviously whenever Great Britain at the time used to play against the Aussies, we were always in awe of the Australians. And I came on holiday in 2008 at the end of the season. First time I'd ever been to Australia, and just fell in love with the place. I was here with Sam, and we were at Coogee one day, and I remember we were out swimming in the ocean, just looking back at the beach thinking we need to imagine just if we came out here and lived out here, played in the NRL, it'd just be such a good life for us. And after that, I came back the following year, 2009, came back 2010. By this point, Sam had signed for South, and then 2011 was my last year with the Rhinos. My contract was up, and I had a meeting with the coach at the start of the year. I said, look, this is going to be my last year. I want to give everything I got. I want to go out on a high, but I'm going to be looking to get a contract over in the NRL for next year. And that was fine. And, we started playing the season. I was playing good football, and they asked me if I wanted to stay. But I'd already made my decision, I kind of knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I declined their offer to stay, and then politics got involved, and then all of a sudden I'm not getting picked to play anymore. You've probably witnessed that yourself. Yeah. And I managed to get out my contract midway through the year. So I left the Rhinos midway through 2011. I was on a plane. I'd already packed my house up. Sam and I had a house together in England. I'd got that rented out. So I was ready to go at the drop of a pin. I could just, if I got that call, I was ready to go. My manager was in talks with South Sydney. And it just happened. The release papers got signed, and I flew to Australia. And then I think within 8 days, I was making my debut for South. So it was a great way of doing it. I didn't have to wait a full pre-season and go through all the media and all that. I was straight into the country, and then I was making my debut. So it happened really quickly, and I just got straight into it. I played 10 games, the last 10 games of the year that year for South. We just missed out on the top 8, but that was my transition to the NRL. It was quick, and I was straight into it. For me, I feel like it was the best way of doing it.
Did you know that you were going to play like within 8 days, like when you were flying over, when you were signing sort of the deal? Did you knew that you're going to be straight into the team?
I had an indication. Sam and George were here at the time, but George was he was playing reserve grade. George would have been 18, I think. Yeah, 18, 19. Shit. So he was only young. And Johnny Lang, the coach at the time, he didn't feel like George was quite ready to play NRL. And South, we had heaps of injuries. Sam was out injured for the season. We had a load of forwards missing. So I thought I'd have a big chance of playing. Got in there, trained well the first week, and I got a bench spot for that the following week. I made my debut at Cronulla, out of all places.
Yeah, down at Cronulla.
Shark Park.
Park.
Yeah, so it was It was incredible. I remember coming on after about 15 minutes, I think, and I was absolutely blowing. 5 minutes in, I was. It was so quick.
Yeah,
it was so quick. But I got my second win, managed to get to half time, and it was a pretty good debut. I was really happy with the debut.
Yeah. How did you find that transition? Actually, obviously you just spoke about it was pretty quick. How did you find it? Other than that, like the physicality of it, did you just notice a difference from like the Super League?
Not really.
No.
It's the Super League's physical. The Super League is physical.
Yeah. It's physical in a different type of way. Like you cop like a stray arm or a stray elbow, or you know what I mean. It's kind of like
I know what you mean.
It's like a dirty physical.
Yeah. But yeah, and there's over here. I think there's so many good athletes playing over here. That's what makes it quick. I think it's probably refereed slightly better.
Yeah,
in terms of the speed, and you can't get away with as much. When I left Super League, there was only 2 games a week being televised. So the other games, there were no cameras on you, so you could get away with a lot more.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas over here, everything you can't get away with anything. Everything's on. There's 10 different cameras. Now there's we had 2 referees at one stage, but
got the bunker and that now.
Yeah, you just watched from all angles. So I think that's what kind of makes it more well policed.
I remember one of my first games over in St. Helens, and I think one of the boys went over. I think it was maybe like Tommy Mack or something. They put a kick in and he went to like just touch it down, and it was sort of like 50-50, and the rest sort of straight away went like, oh no, out in goal or whatever. And I was like, go to the screen like a video ref. You can't do it.
It's not on TV.
Yeah, no, it's not on TV, so I don't have video ref. So I'm standing, like everyone's already running back, and I'm like going to the ref like video ref, and he was just like, mate.
It's crazy to think, isn't it? That, how can it be a fair competition when there's only 2 games out of 6 on TV?
Yeah.
It's just...
And then you have access to like a video ref or some sort of judiciary that can make that kind of call in such a big moment.
Yeah, no, it's just... I mean, they're televising all games now over there, right?
I don't think it's all games. When I left, it was probably like 3 or 4 a week. Yeah. It still wasn't all games.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the best thing for the Super League, to get all the games on TV, create a bit more hype around the game. Because it is a great it was a great competition over there when I left in 2011. I've been so disconnected from it for a long time.
It's getting quite competitive. Like when I was over there, they were even mentioning, because sort of before you had like the top 4, top 6 who were really competitive. And then anything below that, just sort of you knew it was going to be like a blowout. Like if you had Leeds versus, I don't know, like Huddersfield or something, you knew it was kind of going to be a blowout. But now it's sort of tightened up a lot more, and like sort of any team can win on any day, similar sort of to the NRL, you know what I mean? You would never really think, like obviously you got the Melbournes and stuff where you'll be confident, but they can still always get beat by someone who might be coming in a bit lower on the ladder.
Yeah, you look at the last couple of years over there, Salford, they've been... they've had success.
Yeah.
They played
Catalans
in the final,
as well.
Yeah, the Catalans
in the grand final.
And so that's good to see that there's a good rotation of teams at the top.
Yeah, and it's good. And they got 2 France teams in now. Toulouse is in.
Yeah, Toulouse they're a great side. So.
Catalan. That'd be a mad game, actually, those 2 going at it.
France is awesome. I did a year in France. I played for the Dragons for the 2017 season and just loved it. It was awesome.
It's cool over there, eh?
Yeah.
It's a good little spot. So moving forward, how was the time you spent at South? Did you enjoy your time there?
Yeah, I did. I loved it. Obviously, that first half year with Johnny Lang, he was awesome. Very old school. It was probably a good introduction for me. Not too intense.
Yeah.
It was fairly similar to what I was used to. And then we got Michael Maguire in after that, who was is quite intense. He was good. We probably needed to have a bit change the culture at the club, and Madge was good for that at the time. But then, I think the thing that probably Madge struggled with was being able to maintain that team.
Yeah.
He got the boys respected him, but it was almost like he kept feeling the need to sort of putting his foot down. Whereas that's just my opinion anyway. But Madge was great for the club. Obviously, took us to the grand final in 2014. So I had 3.5 good years there at South, and having my brothers there was special. We were all playing together. That was certainly a highlight of my career.
What was it, 2013 or something?
Yeah,
wasn't
the
it?
first time.
All played together.
Yeah. So I remember my mum saying, for the first time ever, she can go watch all the boys at one venue.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to go to 3 different venues.
Yeah, or like have to pick between one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What was that like? Obviously, talk us through sort of the week leading up to it when you all found out you're going to play together. How was that?
It was good. There's a lot of media hype around it.
Yeah, it was heaps actually.
So that was a job in itself, just keeping on top of that and making sure that it wasn't just about us. We had a great squad in 2013 and 14, and we were so happy to be a part of that. As 4 brothers within that team, we had great mates. We still got great mates from those times. But yeah, the week leading into it was we were filming a documentary as well, the Slamming Sam documentary. So there's cameras following us everywhere doing those sorts of things. But we just stuck to our normal routine. We'd always finish training. After training, we hang out together, we go for coffees. Night before the game, we always have spag bowl nights.
Yeah.
And Sam always used to cook big spag bowl for us
all 4 boys.
All 4 boys. Mum was always there too. And we used to have just a mountain of spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah.
Because we never used to eat much on game day, so it was just get everything
load up
in
the night before.
Yeah,
that was me as well. Spag bowl. It's like so many players I know they go to the spag bowl. That's the go-to night before.
But I would have a mountain. I would have a crack at it one time, rest, come back to it.
Yeah.
It took me 3 goes to finish it off. And so yeah, we just stuck to the normal routines. Game day, we'd get up, go for brekkie together. Yeah. A few of the other boys would come down as well. We'd go for a swim. Slightly different to the preparation in England.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit.
down to Coogee Beach for a swim, and then just made our way towards the game. There was plenty happening that night as well. Sam got sin-binned early. We fell down to about 8. We were losing by about 18 points early on in the game because Sam got sin-binned.
No need to push blames, but yeah.
No, it was almost like the script was written. Sam came back on, he scored a try, he got us back into the game. Then I scored that night.
Did you?
Yeah, Sam and I both scored, and there was a set there where we were all in the field together. We all took every single carry in that set. All five tackles. One of the Burgess brothers took a carry.
Yeah.
And then the game finished by all 4 of us making a tackle together, forced an error, and that was the end of the game. We won.
And you won.
Yeah, we won. Yeah, it was pretty cool looking back.
That would be cool because obviously you're all like front rowers, or Sammy sort of always played on the edge a little bit. But yeah, how cool would it be to just like thinking of like me and my brothers playing in the same forward pack, just like nailing like one after another. That'd be cool because like you sort of look at the Morris twins, obviously they're amazing, and they get the link up together, but like it's sort of a different type of feel in the forward pack when you're sort of working together, binding together, where it is a little bit more you got to look after your mate type of thing, you know what I mean, like in the sense of a forward pack. Yeah,
definitely. And it was great playing in the forwards. Sam and I, we used to play a fair bit like with the ball, and so it was always good. We used to have a couple of little plays there together, and then defending shoulder to shoulder with your brother, you know, looking up who we got here, let's get a shot on. That was pretty cool. We used to get pumped up for those moments.
Yeah, I used to love playing against you.
I think
knowing that I'm absolutely going to get bashed.
I think all the Aussies loved playing against us just because they wanted to try and kill us.
It definitely wasn't me, bro. I was just fighting for survival out there. So then you joined Manly, 2015.
Yeah.
How was your experience over there?
Again, I loved my transition to Manly. Tubes was a coach. Again, he was pretty old school, laid back fella.
Yeah, old school, yeah.
And a good squad too. I hated Manly when I played against Manly. I don't know.
Brookvale Oval is possibly the worst place to play.
Yeah,
I hate it.
And I'd never met.
So long the grass, and it's just gloomy.
And they always put water on it before the game.
Yeah, it's always like wet as.
So yeah, I never really saw any of the Manly players out and about either. So I never really got to know any of those boys, but
Yeah, so sort of isolated out there, isn't it? For a Sydney team, they're quite isolated.
Yeah. I was lucky actually. Glenn Stewart came to South and he was signed for South. And before I actually started the 2015 season with South, the pre-season. So I spent a lot of time with Gifty and we became really good mates. And then when I signed for Manly, he gave me the all clear with Brett Stewart, his brother. You know, Biff is coming. He's a good lad. Make sure you take him under your wing. And I was straight in with the senior players with Snake and Steve Mattide, Killer, Jamie Lyon, Chairs, Kieran Foran was there. We had such a great time. It
was a good team, that.
Yeah, Hoz.
Hoz Doggy.
So, I loved it. Absolutely loved it, and it was good. It was good for me in a way to kind of get away from South. Things probably went a bit downhill for me. My relationship with the club, and a few things happened. So it was good for me to start again and sort of reignited a bit of passion for me. I was going into a club. I didn't know anyone at this club, so just making new mates all over again and almost proving myself to a new group of men.
You seem to keep that beach vibe as well. Don't want to live far from the beach, do you?
No. Well,
you weren't going out to Penrith, were you?
No. When I played for Manly, I still lived over in the eastern suburbs.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So
how long did that take?
It was an hour drive to Narrabeen every day.
Jesus Christ!
But I got to enjoy it. I used to listen to the Grill Team every morning.
Yeah, well, that's true.
They were hilarious. Back in the Mighty John's days of the Grill Team, and another teammate, Jack Littlejohn, who was at Manly too. He lived in Maroubra Junction, so I'd pick Jack up every morning and
bit of carpool situation.
We became really good mates actually. I ended up being one of his groomsmen at his wedding. A few years later, so I enjoyed the drive. It was nice to have an hour each way to myself, listen to the radio and make a few calls back to England. So I got used to it.
Yeah, I actually didn't mind that because I lived in Manchester outside of St Helens, and that was that little trek. Same as you, I'd like make some calls back to Oz and gives you that little bit of time just to be in touch with sort of family and stuff. Because it is that good time of like just before people are going to bed or just waking up type of thing in the morning.
Early mornings or late nights. That's the perfect time.
And then you went back to Salford, 2016.
Yeah, I did. I went back again, sort of towards the end of the season. I was not playing with Manly. I'd injured my knee to the end of the 2015 season, so I had a bit of a rough start to the 16 season. Didn't play much football, and then I got an opportunity to go and help Salford out in the what do they call it now? The
bottom eight.
Yeah, the middle eights or something.
Yeah, that's it. Middle eights. Yeah.
The £1 million game.
Yeah.
And so I went back to England, and we ended up in the £1 million game. We shouldn't have been in that game. We were in that game, and it was crazy. We were losing with like a minute to go, and we scored a try on.
Actually, I think I've seen that. Was that the one with like
we scored
was it Josh Griffin, and he just tore it up?
Yeah.
He scored he set up like the last 3 tries or some shit.
Yeah, he killed it. He's a great player, Josh Griffin. And then we went to extra time. We scored to missed the conversion from the sideline to win the game in normal time. Went to Golden Point, and we won. Our Gaz kicked a field goal from 55 meters to win.
Did he?
Yeah, it was crazy.
It's kind of a cool game that like the £1 million, although it's sort of like it's effectively like a battle for the wooden spoon type of thing, but it's such a big thing to not get relegated. You know what I mean? It's not like a sort of dead rubber where you just know that you're out of it. You still got to sort of perform.
Well, I think they call it the £1 million game because every year each Super League club gets £1 million from the TV deal, and you don't get that if you're in the league below.
Championship.
And after that game, I was so happy that we'd won for my teammates and for their families. But then I also, on the other hand, I saw some friends of mine in the other team for Hull KR who, saw their kids crying on the side of the field, saw their wives crying. So it's a pretty cutthroat thing. I don't think it exists anymore, the £1 million game.
Nah, it doesn't. No, it's just like whoever finishes bottom, you're out.
You're out, yeah.
But it was funny, when I was there, I played for London and we ended up in sort of like a £1 million game situation because us and Wakefield were on the same points.
Yeah.
So whoever won went on and didn't get relegated and whoever lost got relegated. So it was a similar sort of like it was a £1 million game, but it wasn't actually called it.
Yeah,
it was just that how it ended up on like the last game of the year.
Yeah, it's pretty cutthrout. It's quite
it is tough,
quite ruthless
because a lot of people's contracts as well are reliant on the fact that they're playing Super League.
Yeah.
I know for myself, like obviously I played with London during Super League. But I definitely didn't have a contract if we went down the Championship.
Yeah.
Because you're just paying with different figures, aren't you?
Yeah, of course.
As you said, you get £1 million for staying up into the Super League. So it is a big thing for people's livelihoods and stuff like that. So just on to post football. How did you come to the decision of actually retiring and what was that like?
I retired a year early. I was with Salford. I'd signed a 2-year contract with Salford. 2018 was year one of that deal, and then I'd snapped my ACL with Manly in 2015, and then I did it again when I was in France for Catalans in 2017. So I snapped the same ACL twice within 2 years, and second time I did a lot of damage to the cartilage too, and the second surgery was quite a big one, and my knee just did not feel right. It took a hamstring graft for the second one, and hamstring was really weak, took a lot of rehab. I couldn't train as much as I used to be able to train just because I wasn't allowed to load up the knee as much. I just felt like my standards weren't where I wanted them to be and where they used to be. So I made a decision to commit everything to the 2018 season, and then I was going to retire at the end of that year just purely because my body, I felt like my body wasn't going to
you down.
Yeah, well, it just. I made a promise to myself as a young player that when it got to that stage, I wouldn't keep pushing and finish on a low. I wanted to finish on a high. I wanted to finish on my terms. I wanted to finish playing good football. So as soon as I made that decision, I just gave everything for that year. I was going to training 2 hours before everyone else to do rehab, get physio, then recovery, and then after everyone left training to go home, I was staying back for more physio, more recovery. So it was quite consuming, and knowing that I only had 1 more year left, I could get my head around that. And so I made a decision to retire. I was 31 years old, so I was fairly young to retire. But during my career, I felt like I was always quite financially careful, knowing that I would always be fairly safe post-football if there was a few years where I didn't quite know what I was going to do. So I was quite fortunate in that sense, and then fell into our clothing brand, the 4B label. That all started just purely on the back of us all working together for South, just enjoying those moments and wanting to continue our brand and still have that connection with the fans and have something to do together as a business. Yeah.
So all you sort of boys just sort of sat down, or was it you? Was it the brains?
Yeah, well,
as your mum says.
Yeah. We've always taken an interest in clothes. I mean, some people might think we've got poor fashion sense, but sometimes we like to think that we're the leaders.
Yeah.
No, we just thought, why not have our own clothing brand, and then it gives us something to do together, and hopefully we can build a clothing brand off the back of our rugby
personal brands.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm running the business by myself at the moment. The boys are all still busy doing their own thing. So it's been good. It's tough. It's keeps me busy. But I really enjoy it, and we've managed to go right up until now.
How have you found that transition? Like for me, I know when this is sort of PT online stuff, also podcasting, it's quite different to when you go out on your own, that you don't have that set schedule that you would usually in footy. And I know, like, I've spoken to a couple other boys that own their own sort of business. that they speak about this as well, not having that actual schedule. How'd you find that? And
yeah, I think
it's different, isn't it?
I think it's quite a common thing, isn't it? Because we're always on someone else's schedule when we're playing football, and it's quite regimented, and we like it, right? I used to like it. You know what you're doing, but there's no freedom. You can't plan things more than a week in advance.
Yeah.
So
everything, like it's hard for people outside of footy to understand the actual scheduling. Like literally 2 weeks in advance, you have everything mapped out for you. Like even to the time block of like 1 hour. This would take like 8:30 to 9:30, and then 10:30 you're here, and nothing outside of that can change that. Hey, it's not like you can just call up sick or just say to the coach, "Hey, I've got such and such. Like I've got to go see."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's none of that. It's what's happening, that's happening.
Yeah, I've got my.
You work your life around that.
I've got my sister's wedding in 6 months' time in Fiji.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, mate, we're in season. You can't go.
There's none of that talk.
There's none of that talk. It's football's first, and you get used to it. You live your life season by season. We live by pre-season, then season, then off-season, and it just keeps going round and round again. But
I always, for me, like the year started in 1st of November.
Yeah.
When we went back to training. Yeah. It wasn't 1st of January, it was 1st of November.
No, it was, but for me, when I retired, I really enjoyed the freedom to start with. But I got into a poor routine of going to bed late.
I think everyone does.
Getting up late, and then before you know it, it's midday and you've done nothing. And then I was just starting to feel like I was just being so lazy. So I've quickly got back into a decent routine. I've always enjoyed getting up early. Not enjoyed getting up early. I've always been made to get up early, so I tried to continue that in my normal life. But just being able to book things, holidays, commit to weddings, commit to birthday parties. That's quite a nice thing to be able to do now.
100%. Like even just to think of to be able to go on holidays like June, July, which is when Northern Hemisphere is like summer, or even like possibly go snowboarding or something in the winter. Is like that was never a thing. It was like you had October to November. You had that month. Figure it out.
4 to 6 weeks.
Figure it out within that time period.
Yeah, and just being able to. I actually worked for I worked for the Rabbitohs for a little while with a marketing team, and when I started explaining about how you book annual leave, and I was thinking, what do you mean? Well, if you want to take annual leave, you just have to put your dates in. I said, what? We can just take time off whenever we want. Like, you just got to give us notice so that we, and I couldn't get my head around it. And I think I used all my annual leave up within the first 3 months. and then I was nothing left. So then I had to try and accrue some more. But that's been, I always say rugby league, I feel gives you a good head start in life. And then it's up to you what you do with it afterwards. It certainly doesn't. Well, I think maybe the way the game's going now, you've got the potential to set yourself up for life. But the contracts I was earning gave me an opportunity to set myself up for the first part of my life to then sort of choose what I want to do after football. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. It does give you a great head start, but like unless you're like those elite players, you're probably not going to be set up for life. And it's very important that, as you said, you work on like your personal brand to be able to create a 4B clothing brand where you can actually turn that into a business, which is what you've done at the moment. It doesn't sort of stop when you start playing, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't. But I think I probably took maybe 6 to 9 months where I didn't do any work.
Yeah.
Did a bit of traveling.
Nice.
Yeah, did a bit of traveling and stuff. So that was a good experience, and I'd certainly recommend it to players too.
Yeah, just take that time.
Just get it out of your system.
Yeah, for me, like I just sort of went and worked with a family business just to sort of keep in routine. I just like routine that way. But I knew that wasn't going to be my end result.
Yeah. But
it does take you time to sort of figure out where you want to go and like what is your next passion, because I don't know, I feel like from like 5 years old, from whenever I can remember, to watching NRL for the first time, I'm like, this is what I want to do. and like everything was just dedicated to like, hey, I'm going to play rugby league. I'm going to play rugby league. And then it's like you finish and it's like, what do you devote your time to now?
Well, I mean, people always say, why don't you do some studying whilst you're playing? And, you know, it sounds easy, but people also don't understand just how much of our time it takes to be a professional rugby league player. You know, it's not just an hour or two every day, and then we've got the rest of the day to go and study and do other things. The schedules now, it's almost like a 40-hour week. You know,
yeah.
You're in at 6:30, 7 o'clock. Probably don't leave till 3, 4 or 5 days a week. Then in season you got games. If your game's not until Sunday, you're busy all week. So you rarely find time to go and study unless you committed to studying maybe one night a week for 8 years to get your qualification. Yeah,
you really have to sort of start out early and do it, chip away slowly. There's definitely, you couldn't even really do like a part-time situation where it's like 2 days a week. Like, it's definitely a lot harder. And NRL's doing a really good job, like being able to do it by correspondence and online, and they're making a lot of effort into that. But even as you said, like the time limit that it takes up during the day, but also the mental space as well, you know what I mean? The mental drain, like obviously it's physically draining, but it's mentally draining of like you have to do skills sessions, and then even during preseasons, it's like you got to gear yourself up for like one of the hardest sessions you do in your life every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
you're physically drained, mentally drained, then, you know, throw injuries into that as well.
Whether you're going to get selected.
Selection. All that takes a massive toll on you mentally. And then, you know, for me personally, I tried to do study. I was doing some accountancy studying, and I lasted a year at that, and I felt like it was taking too much of my downtime away from me, and at that time in my life, I needed to have that downtime. That was just as important as the training.
Yeah, and it's hard because if you do have like sort of a change in form, or maybe like it's like you just throw everything else out, and it's like, oh, the studying's taken away from down. You know what I mean? It's sort of everything else gets pushed to the side so you can get back in good form.
That's always the first question. If your form's down, the coach pulls you in, mate. What's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing differently? And then, I've started studying, or I've just had a kid. You know, all right, well, that needs to change. You know, you're a professional rugby league player.
This is priority.
So, and then if it doesn't change, then, well, can't pick you this week. You know, your form's not, until your form comes back up, you're not going to be in the side. So, as a professional player, you want to be in the side every week.
Exactly. You know what I mean? You don't get picked this week, you don't get picked next week. Value starts to go down, contracts coming up, and it's like, hey, you're going to pay bills. You know what I mean? It's tough. It's tough. It's not as simple as what people think, where you can just sort of go in and like train, and then you got a few hours off in the afternoon or whatever it may be, and then you just go straight into studying. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure some people can do it, but it's not something that you can like sort of do multiple things at once, where your head's here, there, and everywhere. Your head very much has to be center focus on rugby league. And I think that's like something that people sort of need to start understanding.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what separates the players who make it to the players who don't. I remember coming through the system at the Rhinos. There were so many talented players my age coming through with me, but they just weren't probably willing to make those sacrifices. Not going on that night out. You know, not probably training as hard as he could have done. Whereas I made a lot of sacrifice from a young age, and although I probably wasn't as talented as some players, I got further than other players. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that was very much like my story as well. I was one of like the last players picked in my 20s team, and then from that, I think there was like 2 players that made it, and like I was one of them. Yep. You know what I mean? It's just, and that was just purely because like I wanted to sacrifice more, and I wanted to work harder than everyone else that was in the 20s team, and eventually it sort of
that's what it takes, and there's so many.
Yeah, it's definitely not like just because you got the talent, it's definitely not, doesn't mean you're going to get there.
No, not at all. There's so many, and especially in this country, in Australia, all the best athletes want to be NRL players, and then if they don't quite make NRL, they'll find another sport. Whereas in England, the best athletes want to play in the Premier League. Different build. But yeah, there's definitely a sacrifice that has to be made to have that edge, to make it as a professional, to have a long career anyway as a professional.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's mentally and it's physically demanding career. And it's interesting you sort of talk about how post life after footy. I know like Sammy sort of was in the media about like his post life after footy and very much like in the SAS. What was your thoughts on seeing him in the SAS, obviously being a big brother? I thought it was amazing. He did an amazing job. He definitely deserved to win, and I know him personally. We were training together at Air Locker and stuff like that. How was that, being his big brother and seeing him go through SAS?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we didn't get to see it. We knew what happened before he'd been on TV. But I thought it was a great opportunity for him to go and do it. I knew he was never going to quit. I always knew he was going to get to the end of that course. And then to watch it unfold on TV, it was just, I was happy that people got to see the Sam that I get to see every day.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
he was quite raw and vulnerable, wasn't he?
And that's just who he is.
Which was amazing.
And, you know, it's a shame that we only get to see the person that the media make up to be, or whoever it is, or people make opinions about someone that they don't even know because they see them on TV or they see them talking. But the show SAS, the course, it's totally unscripted. There's no editing done there. It's just raw. They break you down to nothing, then build you back up, and that's when you're most vulnerable. And it was a great reflection on Sam and the kind of person he is. You know, he's got a big heart, and he's tough. He's mentally tough. You can see how much he cared for the other contestants on the show too. He was a good leader. He's always been a good leader. So I thought the show was great, just to actually give people the real Sam Burgess and who he is.
Yeah, that was one thing that actually stuck out for me, was how much he just sort of grabbed his team and almost just like put it on his back. You know what I mean? And you can see that like on the footy field, but it was so much more evident when it was just around sort of, I wouldn't say like regular people, but people who probably haven't been exposed to that type of mental torture, I suppose you could say. You could see his mental toughness really come out, and he just grabbed him and went, "Come on, follow me." Yeah,
he did, and that's he's done that through his career as well. Whenever we've needed someone to step up and change the game, if we've been losing, he'd just grab the ball and do something special. That's just what he used to do, and it showed in the show as well. He took control. You know, he dug in. Like he said, if someone was struggling, he'd just go and pick him up and carry him through. I don't know, were you there that day when he came to Air Locker and did that session, the big group session where they were trying to hit a certain amount of calories?
Oh, yeah,
were you
yeah.
there that day? I wasn't there, but I remember my girlfriend, she came back from that session and she said, "Wow, I saw Sam in a completely different light today." It was quite a special experience for me to see that leadership from Sam and get to experience what it would have been like playing in his team.
Yeah, he really had that presence of like, you just had confidence that he just knew, you know what I mean? And everyone just reacted. Like, obviously you've been in that, like the Air Locker situation. Like, if you don't have the real confidence, then like standing in front of a group of people, you can lose a lot of people and people will start going every which way because everyone's sort of on their own page type of thing. But when like he spoke and he said something, it was like everyone just bought in, you know what I mean? And it was like, there was this one point where we had to do sit-ups and it was like the old school link arms, but it was like the way in which that formed and like, it was like that, like it was just happened so naturally, even though people, like those people that didn't even know each other or meet each other for the first time and stuff like that.
And it was at a time, from what I understand in the session, everyone was starting to get tired. It was towards the end of the session and losing the buzz, and it kind of gave everyone that little bit of a lift, what they needed just to get through and finish the session. Yeah,
that little bit of inspiration. But as you spoke on just before and touching on the media side and how they sort of portray people, and it's like always that sort of big, strong footy player or whatever like that. But it's also sort of behind the scenes as well, as you like approaching the coach, and as we spoke about before, hey, your number one priority is footy and stuff like that, and things that are happening outside of the football world, you got to snap that back into place and be able to perform. And it's hard for people to sort of understand that because there's no sort of being able to take leave due to like mental illness, or I suppose there is, but like not in sort of just every day. You can't just take a game off and stuff like that and say, hey, I'm not feeling too good today.
Yeah, it's hard for people around you to understand just what kind of commitment you have to make. I was lucky. I obviously had my 3 brothers who were all in the same sport as me, so we all understood each other. We understood what we needed to do. But I remember other players that sometimes the families wouldn't quite understand why they couldn't just take a day off, or they couldn't go out for a beer on a Saturday if they had a game on a Sunday. It's all right, just come out for a couple of beers. You know, it's no big deal. But now we're playing tomorrow. We can't do that.
No.
And to us, that just seems like an outrageous thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's just non-negotiable. But a lot of people can't quite get their heads around that, which is a challenge too, because it almost chooses your friends for you as well.
Yeah.
You know, friends who you think might be your friends kind of slip away because your interests completely different.
Yeah, and they can't sort of take their own mindset and mold it towards yours, where it obviously might be different, where they think, oh, having one beer isn't so bad.
Yeah.
But obviously it could be detrimental if you're playing.
Oh, if someone sees you doing it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. If someone sees you doing it, 100%.
And then if you have a bad game, that's it. You'd be getting fined or whatever.
Yeah, but it's also the, like, as I said before, like the mental side of it as well. Although, like, yeah, probably if you did research or whatever, one beer probably wouldn't affect a performance or whatever it may be. But it's also going into the game knowing that you're about to go into a tough game and you've got 16 other players who are relying on you, and you know in the back of your head, probably shouldn't have went out last night. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that type of mental.
You don't need that doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
In your mind, think, I best play well today because, you know, I had 2 beers last night or whatever. You need to be going into every single game knowing that you've done everything perfect that week to prepare you for that game.
That's it, like everything you could possibly do perfectly to sort of prepare yourself. And that's how essentially you get confidence in you that you will perform that day.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to finish this off, man, a couple of questions for you, something a little bit light. So obviously when you go away for footy, maybe say be Gold Coast or something like that, you obviously have to stay with a roommate. Worst roomie you've ever had? Name and shame.
Worst roomie, Jesus. I got some great roomies actually. I always used to either room with Benny Lowe at South, and Sam. Had a room with my brother Sam. He's probably the worst,
Sammy,
in terms of being messy. Yeah, he talks in his sleep as well.
Yeah.
Worst roomie. Everyone's, I guess, all right on those away trips. I used to love the away trips.
Yeah,
I
they
used
were
to
good.
love it, going and staying in hotels and.
It's good for like
it's
good for like if you're like a single boy or anything like that, because you don't really have that, like, obviously family commitment. But for me, man, it was just like if you got stuck with the snorer.
Oh yeah, the worst. Yeah.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
Willie Tonga is the loudest snorer I've ever seen and heard in my life.
What do you do in that situation? What do you do? Do you just ignore
usually what they used to do is they used to have 2 rooms where it would be like for the snorers, but they put them together, or they'd single them out. So they just have like one. But if you got stuck with them, man, like I know a lot of boys used to bring like earplugs. Yeah. Man, that night I was just like one pillow here, just like trying to go to sleep. I'm like, please just go to sleep. Please just go to sleep.
I remember I think this might have been Brett Stewart. I always used to room with Brett Stewart at Manly. And he told me one morning, he told me I was snoring like a train. And I was, oh man, I'm so sorry. He said, no, it's all right. I just hit you with a pillow.
Yeah.
And then you went onto your side and stopped snoring.
You're sweet.
Yeah. That's when I snore. If I'm on my back.
Yeah.
I just, sucking in the big ones.
So you're the culprit. You're the snoring culprit.
Not usually, but if I've had a few beers and I'm on my back, I'll be snoring.
All right. You've played with a few decent players over the years, even from Leeds to South to even Manly. What's the best player, if you can single one out? Best player you played with?
I always liked the leaders, and I've mentioned the leaders a lot tonight. As you said, I play with some special players in terms of ability, but Jamie Peacock was someone that I really looked up to. He was my position, and he helped me a lot in my career. Kev Sinfield, I respect Kev so much. He was our captain at the Rhinos. Then obviously coming over and playing for South Sydney, I had Greg Inglis, who was just an absolute freak. Did some things on a football field that you just never thought were possible. Sam, my brother, he's done these crazy plays at times where you think he's just got nothing left in him, and then he'll do something that can change the game. So I've been very, very lucky. It's probably quite hard to single someone out, but in terms of ability and what they've done and some of the things they've managed to do on the field, probably Greg Inglis. He's probably have to be the best.
Yeah, it's hard to go past Greg, eh?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to go past Greg.
Absolute fended me so many times. Yeah. God damn.
He fended me in training once. And
I'm glad you got to taste it.
Yeah, it was getting heated. We were playing, in like early on in the week, you have your contact sessions and you do a bit of 13 on 13. And I was in the second 13. I'd been dropped back to the second 13, and so I was a bit filthy, and it was starting to get a bit heated. And then,
as it does,
Greggy was just running across the line, just patting people away, and I was like, right, I'm just going to come out and try and smash him. And so I've just shot out to try and smash him. Next thing I know, I'm on my back on the floor. I just got the stiff arm straight into the chest. I just folded me like that.
It's unbelievable, eh?
Like, just so quick.
And like, you're obviously a big dude. Yeah, like you're not a halfback.
And I was going in with intent as well. Yeah. And he just said, "Nah, see you later.
See you, mate. Better luck next time." Yeah. All right, last one. Funniest player you played with? You would have had some larrikins in the days.
Oh yeah. Jamie Jones Buchanan.
Yeah, he seems like a laughing minute, actually.
He is a pest.
Yeah,
he's a pest. But I was a young player coming through at that time, and so I used to love it. And I used to jump on his bandwagon too, because I was a young kid trying to impress the senior boys.
Yeah.
Rob Burrow, he was always good fun. We always had a good laugh at training. And then over here, Adam Reynolds, biggest pest in the NFL.
Yeah, is he?
Yeah. Biggest pest, yeah. Isaac Luke was good fun.
Yeah.
I love the banter between all the Kiwi boys.
Yeah.
You know, those laughs that they do, and
they
use all these funny words.
Yeah.
I picked up a bit of the fob lingo.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If I had to choose one, I'd probably go Adam Reynolds.
Oh yeah,
pest.
wow.
I've seen him. He's won that award quite a few times as well. So
yeah.
Well deserved.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Before we leave, let people know where they can find you and obviously where they can find 4B.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, obviously through our website, 4blabel.com. Instagram too, 4B_label.
Yep.
And then we've got a few retailers too that we wholesale to some country towns.
Oh, cool. Yep.
We've got some great partners in Mudgee, in Bathurst, Newcastle, Coffs Harbour. So you can find us in store as well.
Awesome. Really appreciate that, mate. Again, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate you giving up your time to come down.
Good fun.
So everyone, cheers. Thanks for watching. As always, like, comment and subscribe, and I shall see you next week.